Two men, one twisted desire, a ritual murder that would etch their names in the annals of Zimbabwe's darkest history. Tafadzwa Shamba and Tapiwa Makore Snr, a deadly duel driven by a sinister force, left a trail of devastation in their wake. A 7-year-old's life brutally extinguished. A family shattered. A nation horrified. But what fueled their descent into darkness? What secrets laid behind their heinous acts? Tonight, on Zim's Notorious Criminals, we peel back the layers of evil, exposing the shocking truth behind the ritual murder that shook a nation to its core. On the fateful night of September 17, 2020, in the village of Makore, under Chief Mangwende, a sense of unease settled over the community. 7-year-old Tapiwa Makore, a bright and curious boy, failed to return home from the communal garden, where his mother, Linda Munyori, had sent him to keep away animals from their crops. As the sun dipped below the horizon, Linda's instincts screamed that something was terribly wrong. She frantically searched for her son, scouring the gardens, her mother-in-law's homestead, and even her sisters-in-law's residences, but there was no sign of Tapiwa. As the darkness deepened, a search party was formed, combing the nearby streams and wells, fearing the worst. Tapiwa Makore Sr., the boy's uncle, was visibly agitated, lashing out at the women, calling them careless and irresponsible.
Usadagurwa kutukwa. Hey, murimbwa dzevanhu vanhu vese.
Aikutuka. Hey, hanzi
kurambisai. Mese akadzepana. Amuziweka kuchengeta vanhu.
His anger seemed to stem from a place of concern, but was it? Unbeknownst to the search party, Tapiwa Makore Sr. harbored a sinister secret, one that would soon shake the very foundations of the community. As the night wore on, the search continued, but to no avail. It wasn't until the next morning that the unthinkable was discovered, a human torso, mutilated beyond recognition, near a village's homestead called Samamulwira. His dog and puppies were at that point trying to eat it. The body later, identified as Tapiwa Makore, had been decapitated, hands and legs severed, and skin charred from a nearby forest fire.
Inini andina kuzvigamuchira kuti nditimwe apa nekuti anga akachekwa izvi horo yese yakabviswa akatsemurwa kudaisa sematsemurira atinoita mubaya apa anga akarara nedu saka pangweni handina kuzvigamuchira kuti nditi mwana.
The villagers were consumed by grief, trauma, and confusion. Who could have committed such an atrocity? As the investigation unfolded, a blooded gin was found in Tapiwa Makore Snr's house, leading police to Tafadzwa Shamba, a middle-aged herdsman in the employ of Makore Snr. Shamba was taken into custody, but the question lingered: who was this man, and what role did he play in the brutal murder of young Tapiwa? The village was left to grapple with the darkness that had descended upon them as the truth slowly began to unravel. But little did they know, the most shocking revelation was yet to come. According to Daniel Nemukuyu of the Herald, Tafadzwa Shamba's life began to unravel in his teenage years. Born in Mureo some 40 years ago, Tafadzwa attended Kwenda High School, where he passed his ordinary level exams. However, his academic progress was short-lived as his love for drugs and alcohol, particularly the illicit brew, kachasu, took hold. After his father's death when he was just 25, Tafadzwa's downward spiral accelerated. His mother's passing in 2011 marked the beginning of a destructive rampage. Sources from his village in Chinyani confirmed that Tafadzwa's insatiable love for money led him to sell off almost all the family assets. He offloaded an Isuzu pickup truck, 2 water pumps, and plows for a pittance. But that wasn't enough. He also stripped his parents' 8-roomed house. With Tafadzwa Shamba in police custody, the investigation shifted its focus to Tapiwa Makore Snr, the owner of the homestead where the blooded gene was found. As the uncle of the victim and employer of the prime suspect, Makore Snr's involvement seemed increasingly likely. But how could Tafadzwa, a mere headsman, have committed such a heinous crime and left evidence in his employer's house without his knowledge? As detectives dug deeper, they began to unravel a web of secrets and lies that pointed to a more sinister plot. Makore Snr's agitation and verbal attacks on the women searching for Tapiwa Makore now seemed like a clever ruse to deflect attention from his own involvement. The question on everyone's mind was, what role did Tapiwa Makore Snr play in the ritual murder of his own nephew? Was he the mastermind behind the crime, or merely an accessory after the fact?
Everyone wants an effective commercial for their company. We've all seen bad corporate video examples, like a start office setting with someone awkwardly reading a script line by line about their amazing company. It almost feels like they're trying to convince themselves of its greatness rather than the viewer, but instead customers want to know the reasons to choose your brand, the things that make you special and help you stand out in a competitive market. Well, you're probably wondering where I'm going with this. Well, I'm your guy. Let's work together and create an impressive and reliable commercial that will boost your business and your pocket too. Hit me up.
The arrest of Tapiwa Makore Snr on September 27, 2020 sent shockwaves through the community. The revelation that he had allegedly worked with Tafadzwa Shamba and a witch doctor to murder his own nephew was almost too horrific to comprehend. The news left everyone reeling, wondering how a family member could commit such a heinous act. Tafadzwa Shamba made a detailed confession on camera with some papers. In a chilling account, Shamba recounted the events leading up to the murder, providing a step-by-step explanation of the crime. He accompanied the journalists to the exact locations where the atrocities were committed, walking them through the gruesome details of the murder. Shamba's confession provided a disturbing insight into the mindset of the perpetrators and the events that led to the tragic loss of Tapiwa Makore Junior's life.
Tandadzoka pana ndoka ndautanga kuno iye ndaimisira shuga muwawa wero kuti testi sweet ndiye akasadza achinwawo akatadza kufizuka ndobva akotsera ndobva ndasiya chigubu changu ndobva ndadzokera kune vainwawo kwandanga ndatengawo amanero ndobva ndakazodzoka kubva uko ndobva ndasikogarira kuno ndobva ndachimirira baba vepanapa vanga vaenda kunotsvaga mwana dzoka kwavo ndara Tapiwa akadzoka zvinenge zvomapasti 12 ndobva takachipurogirama kuti tochiita sei nemukomana ndokumutakura ndandamubereka netawero musana kwangu ivo vabva vatera vane chitsaga chine zvimameti nemapanga nezvimaplastic. Kasvika panapa ndobva ndamugadzika apo pamakamirapada kuendwa pamaviri ndobva ndamugadzika apo ndobva ndauya panapa ndobva ndawaridza plastic pasi ndobva ndaisa chimeti pamusoro peplastic ndaisa chijira chandanga ndakaberekesa pamusoro pechimeti anga akaisa musoro ndakamuda ndasunga makumbo vamakura ndivo vanga vakavheneka netochi ndobva ndamudzipa paura hamboda kuti shirinyi but since ndakamutsimbirira uku nekuku akashaya pawo handauzotorongwa chinyi ndobva ndamukata musoro. Ndapedza kucheka musoro ndabva ndacheka ruoko. Saka ndaiti any part yandee ndacheka ndichiisa muplastic rakabatwa.
Shamba revealed that the boy was drugged, killed, and mutilated in order to harvest his body parts, which were then intended to be sold to a witch doctor for a sum of $1,500. In a disturbing twist, Shamba and his accomplices refused to disclose the location of the boy's head, leaving the family and investigators with a painful unanswered question. In a surprising turn of events, Thanks Makore, the twin brother of Tapiwa Makore Snr, was arrested in connection with the ritual murder of his nephew, Tapiwa Makore Junior. He was accused of receiving the boy's head and arms, but was later released on a $10,000 bail by the High Court. However, his freedom was short-lived, as he was re-arrested just hours later on allegations of destroying evidence linked to the crime. It was alleged that Thanks had gone to Tapiwa Makore Snr's house and burnt or destroyed evidence that could have implicated his brother in crime. Nevertheless, he was eventually acquitted due to lack of evidence, and the prosecution withdrew the charges against him. Similarly, Maud Wunidzarira, who was known for brewing traditional opak beer in the area and a neighbor of the Makores, had been arrested in Budiriro after being spotted washing a blood-stained carpet. She was also acquitted due to insufficient evidence. The prosecution's case against her collapsed and she was released. Despite the acquittals, the community remained shaken by the gruesome ritual murder and the alleged involvement of family members. After a prolonged and agonizing wait, Tapiwa Makore was finally laid to rest 6 months after his brutal murder, or bats without his head. The case against his killers had been ongoing, with the High Court ultimately delivering its verdict on June 29, 2023.
The murder case of 7-year-old Tapiwa Makore from Murewa came to a close today after the 2 accused murderers were found guilty.
Justice Munamato Mutevedzi, sitting with 2 assessors, found Tafadzwa Shamba guilty of murder, while Tapiwa Makore Snr was convicted as an accomplice to the crime. The prosecution had successfully proven their guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, with Shamba's own confession serving as a crucial piece of the evidence. Shamba's confession, combined with other evidence, led to the recovery of Tapiwa's lower limbs, which had been dumped in a latrine. The gruesome details of the crime and the overwhelming evidence against them sealed the fates of the 2 men.
Tafadzwa Shamba and Tapiwa Makore Snr, who killed a 7-year-old boy from Murewa for ritual purposes in 2020, have been sentenced to death, with the court describing the 2 as heartless individuals who deserve capital punishment.
On July 12, 2023, Tafadzwa Shamba and Tapiwa Makore Snr were sentenced to death, bringing a measure of justice to the Makore family and the community that had been shaken by the heinous crime.